Hello, welcome to the queue for Operation 43rd Wessex. And this is the first game using the 4.3 version rule set for Global War 36 in a public venue. We've been playtesting it now for a while. Some of the changes have been made to some of the rules, some not, since we started. So I'm going to highlight not all of the changes, but some of the changes, probably most of the changes, in a visual format here. So hopefully this is helpful. Um, and I'm going to use these arrows to signify my like or dislike. You know, the short yellow is it's okay, I like it. And the long arrow is, yeah, I like that a lot. Indifferent to the first one, and that is the CCP. Their strategic, not strategic, their national bonus for having the rail line built between a Russian territory and a CCP territory used to be when at war with a major power. So Japan, obviously, that's the only one in the region. It has been changed to when at war with a major power, or as if the Civil War exists with the KMT. So there's some instances where the CCP still might not get that bonus, but it helps them out a little bit. Usually, CCP, depending on their influence roles, does or doesn't need that help. So anyway, I am one way or the other. That one didn't really register for me as being significant. Um, the second one is when Germany declares war on France or Britain, it's 5 increase for the U.S. And it used to be if you declared war on one, say on one turn, and then you declared war on Britain the next turn, it was still only was $5. Now each time you declare, um, it's $5. So where this might come into play is the Germans attack France, but they leave Britain alone. Now Britain has to decide: are they going to declare war on Germany and rob the U.S. of the $5? Um, it basically it just gives Britain maybe a turn of breathing from convoying. Um, so however that plays out, that'll be between the Allies. And then, in addition to that rule, is if London falls, the Russians will get a D12 income increase. So London very rarely falls. So that's one of those what if scenarios. Next is FEC now has home country. So pretty much all these territories are now home territories. You can move, build militia and unlimited amounts, as opposed to the way it was before, where you could only have 3 in Calcutta, which was a little painful. So let's slide over here and we'll do the next grouping. And the supply lines have changed basically how you count them. They're the same because it was 3 and 5, 3 for the minor, 5 for the major. Now it's 2 and 4. But the difference is you don't count the C zone right next to the port. So it's still the same, because before you counted the C zone and you went 1, 2, 3. Well, now you go 1, 2. So you end up in the same spot. So that kind of it just makes the gameplay, I think, a little easier when you're counting the same way as if you had a ship there. So there's that. In I don't know. It's I didn't think that was a big difference, but some people might. I kind of like this change here. You can now attack and destroy victory cities, and that's by strategic bombing them with the units that can conduct strategic bombing. For every 20 points of damage and they can't be repaired on a city is -1 IPP. So if you look up here at Calcutta, it's worth 3. So if you put 20 damage on that city, well, now it's only worth 2, and that never comes back. To destroy a regular city takes 45 damage, and to destroy a major capital city takes 60. So like, London, Moscow, Tokyo takes 60 damage. And when that city is destroyed, it obviously loses all its IPP value, but it also is no longer a victory point. So you can bomb a city out of a victory point, which, might be an option for something like Paris or Nanking, if you can't get to them. So with that in mind, through the playtesting, we've never gotten to these amounts. Now, these amounts were smaller, and I think they were raised because we did kind of get close to the previous amounts, and I can't remember what they were. But even with those smaller previous amounts for destroying a city, we never got there. So that is that. Let's slide over here. We'll grab the next section. This one I really like, and that is victory. If you recall the victory objectives, Lebensraum, liberating Paris, and the European buffer zone, they each are worth 2 if you complete them, but you would always lose them, so you'd lose your 2. Well, now if you complete them, you automatically you get the 2, but if you lose that victory objective, you lose only 1 of the victory points. So you have a victory point that is always available, that you can't lose. So that's kind of nice for the effort to get either one of those 3 2-point objectives. Next up, in Madrid, I kind of like that one. Now, if the Germans win the Spanish Civil War, you've got a unit that can go to Berlin in the previous version, or if the Soviets win, to Moscow. You have the option of placing this unit in Berlin or Madrid. Same thing here with Moscow or Madrid. So that kind of helps Spain a little bit from the Allies, because they get a little greedy. Turkey no longer aligns to a major power. Really only helpful for Germany, actually. And if I'm playing Germany, I'm going to like that, because I'm going to take Istanbul early on, and the rest of Turkey is no longer British. So, that's quite a little buffer zone there, which is kind of nice. Another one I like is the tech changes, and there's three tech changes. Radar is now a +1 intercept to all aircraft. It used to just be, I think the fighters got +1. So now the defenders get +1 as well. Long-range aircraft, the values have changed so that the tech gives a +1 to all aircraft. So before, I think it gave +2 to strategic bombers. But that's now a 1. But now strategic bombers, they actually fly 1 more, so it ends up being the same thing. It's just more straightforward now. Heavy bombers, that tech, the anti-aircraft was reduced in this last version to 1 versus the heavy bombers. And some people didn't like that. I loved it. That was my favorite part of the whole previous version. I could bomb anybody, and rolling a 1's pretty difficult on a D12, so that is no longer available, and it's been moved up to 2 for the normal. If you don't have the heavy bomber tech, then it's the standard 3, and that's bombing cities, facilities, that kind of thing. Next up is my first negative, and it's negative because of how it is handled. And this is diplomacy. When I first heard that, I thought, oh, great, we're going to get new parts of the map involved, some units, income, but that's not the case. You basically are using the diplomacy to gain the use of ports, and we'll go over to a part of the map that might be useful. Say Uruguay, if Germany was successful on their 2 diplomacy roles, they could use this port. They do get 1 for having the country. So a country like Brazil, even though it's worth 3, is still only 1 additional income. But you get to use the ports. Seaplane base, don't know. I think it's just ports. I don't. It might be facilities, so maybe you can use that seaplane base. So anyway, that's really all diplomacy is, and that comes into play a little later on another change here for 4.3. Next up is a good one. I really like that. And that in the past, you would have to declare your blitzing units and where they were going. So they would fight the first battle, say they get to 2 rounds and under, and then they get the blitz, but you had to declare that. So the enemy could specifically scramble into that battle and not this battle. Now you don't know. So now you don't have to tell where that second battle's going, or if you're even going to blitz. If you complete that first battle in round 2, then you can spring the blitz on and continue on for battles. So the defender's not going to know where the next battle is going. You might be able to predict it, but I like that, taking that, knowing where the blitz is going. So you really can't scramble into that second blitzing zone attack. Next up is sort of a good one. Damaged capital ships now move 1 less, have 1 less movement for every point of damage. So this is just a regular carrier, so it's only going to be able to move 1. But if that was a heavy carrier with 1 damage, it could move 2. But it takes 2 damage, then it's moving 1. So that's the change there. And it used to be that the aircraft would be a -2, and I never really understood that, because I don't understand what the range of the aircraft has to do with the damage of the carrier. So that has been removed. So airplanes or aircraft on the damaged carriers can still move their full movement range. So that's nice. This leads to the double red arrows, and there's no way to put it. This is just a bad idea. Naval supply. So now your naval units have to be in supply, or they suffer a -1 movement penalty. And that's been tweaked a little bit, but I would have preferred to have that removed. Who wants to keep track of supply? It's one thing to do your supply for militia upgrades or minor factories, but now the supply has been added to strategic naval movement, to your Navy, your naval ships. I don't know. It's unnecessary, especially for this game. Along with that, now you can set up escort duty on your supply lines. So you could only do an escort duty, on these convoy lines. Well, now if you want to protect your supply line and get your ships out, you can set up escorts all along the line and hope they hold. If they don't hold, then your Navy's hosed. All right, moving into the next section here. Orange chip, one of my favorites. Naval ports can now be attacked from the sea zone, not necessarily the zone they're in. Let's see, here's a naval port here. Now you wouldn't have ships in here, but say that was a major port on the Marshall Islands. It used to be you would have to fly, 1, 2 onto the Marshall Islands to do a port strike. Well, now you can just fly into the sea zone next to the port, do your port strike, and then you can come back. So that gives you greater range And I can already think of one spot to do that on, and we'll leave that alone. Um, Love that you can strike the ports, which makes sense because the ports are on the coast, so you wouldn't necessarily have to go into a land territory to make that strike. Here is a good and a bad. Good, militia can no longer attack. Um, that always seemed weird that militia units could attack. Um, so that has been removed. However, there's an exception for Russian militia. They can still attack. So I was trying to get maybe the militia to be paired up with land units in a ratio that made sense, but it's still, you can still attack with a stack of militia, which does just, that's irritating. Irritating. Next up is artillery. Indifferent to that one. If they're not paired with a land unit, and it could be like a tank or a mech, it's a -1. So an artillery by itself is a -1. That I can see that help getting to not necessarily attacks, but in defense. You know, when you got down to one artillery, of course you'd probably keep the infantry if you were defending, but maybe it was a militia, so it would be a -1 if that militia was gone. So I think that maybe that's just attack only. Now that I think about it, that one I'm not sure. It is a -1 if it's not paired on the attack. I do know that for sure. And next up is one of my second favorites. The aircraft cost has been reduced. Not the fighters, unfortunately, but everyone else. The medium bomber, strategic bomber, tactical bomber, fighter are all 10. Love that. The heavy bomber and the jet, which you get from the tech, are now 11. Love that. Gets more aircraft on the board, I believe, and more variety. And last but not least, Russia has a bonus called, I think, the Motherland, where they get their first turn they're at war, they get a discount. So they used to get a discount on infantry units of -1, but now it goes for all units, which, you know, on an aircraft is insignificant. Saving one on a $10 unit is not a big deal. But, you know, artillery, that's something. Yeah, maybe the tanks. I mean, the higher value you go, the less value I think you get for that change. But that's kind of 4.3 in a nutshell. So hopefully that helps bridge the gap of what changed, and that is a lot of change, actually. Some good, some bad. Thanks for watching. Welcome back for part 2 of the 4.3 changes, with a few clarifications that I received after showing the group the video, just to see if I got things right. And there was some discussion on the Turkey not aligning to any nation. I was in favor of, you know, for Germany, you know, what they could do, but the argument was made for Russia as well, because there has been a game or two where Russia has invaded Turkey. Turkey is controlled by Britain now. Britain dumps a bunch of stuff in Istanbul, you know, to prevent that Russian victory point. And that really only happens in a game where, you know, the Comintern and the Allies are close on points. It doesn't happen very often, but that's an advantage there for Russia as well. Scrolling down, the artillery, I did find out it does pair 1-to-1, and it's a -1 penalty for attack and defense. So that's kind of important to know that as well. It seems like there was a third one, but now I can't remember it. Doggone it. It was pretty minor, but oh well. You'll get the gist of the changes here, and we've already started playing this game privately. We're going to release it when HBG releases 4.3 on their website. So when that happens, then we'll flip all these videos that are going to unlisted right now to public, so you'll be able to view it. So I will have this as being the first video on the playlist. Well, I think there's an introductory video by Global War Enthusiast, and I'll probably put this as second, kind of announcing that this game is available now. I'll have the playlist so you can come back and watch all the turns, because as people are releasing them, you're not going to be able to follow at all, because some will release at different times. But my playlist, I think Global War Enthusiast has a playlist. And maybe Boston Bruce has a playlist too. You'll be able to follow all these. And just for your knowledge, I'm playing Japan. The KMT and the USA will be Sergeant Shellhole. The common turn up there in the north will be Global War Enthusiast. Britain, Commonwealth, France, Boston Bruce, and finally my teammate Italy and Germany will be Panzer J. And now that you've seen, this is actually turn 2 of Germany, so you got a little sneak peek there of what's happening. But no war, no combat, no nothing. Like I said, when this video releases, we'll flip all those to public, and you can view them on the playlist.